No, no, no!
Yep.
Oh, jeez. What a fall apart.
Roguelikes, am I right? We've all heard this term, but does anyone actually know where it comes from? Yeah, I think this calls for a segment of The Co-op Bros Teach You Gaming History. The term roguelike is derived from the 1980s game called Rogue, thus roguelike. Yep, it's that simple. It was the first game to popularize a random set of encounters, as well as other mechanics we know today, like permadeath. But this isn't quite what you think of when you think of a roguelike. You think of something like this: Spelunky, Enter the Gungeon, or Risk of Rain. The thing is, you'd be wrong. Most people consider these roguelites, especially if you ask the folks of the International Roguelike Development Conference. Yeah, that's a real thing, by the way. But you know what else these three games have in common? They can all be played in co-op. See, I brought it back around. We've played a ton of roguelike co-op games, and while some are more or less cooperative than others, I think we finally found one that really nails the co-op roguelike mix. That game is Ship of Fools. So now that you've suffered through a history lesson, we're here as the Co-op Bros letting you know whether Ship of Fools has what it takes to be a great co-op game for you and your best friend. Spoiler alert, we think it does.
Ooh, God, he almost got me. Watch out, watch out.
Oh
Fire's moving,
no,
fire.
bro! This is it! You gotta save me! Get the fires! I got this one, I got this one, No, you gotta get the other one! Oh, dang it, man! Holy crap, bro.
We feel like Ship of Fools starts off its bid for a great co-op roguelike title on the right foot by nailing its ease of play. We had no problem connecting with each other for all of our runs, and the invite system is so simple I'm not going to bother explaining it. It also has some key shared progression that I want to explain, and that's really encouraging for a roguelite. Essentially, you will leave your friends' runs with all of your tendrils, this game's permanent upgrade currency. So when you go back to your hub world after disconnecting with your friend, you'll be able to spend those precious tendrils on cannon upgrades or ship health, new trinkets that will show up in a run. The usual rogue elements are all at play here. During a run, you might unlock new characters or get far enough to unlock a new shop, and notably that will not transfer. But for us at least, we just didn't feel like that was a big deal, simply because they were really easy to get, so we just hop into each other's game and get them the progression they needed to unlock whatever they needed to unlock. The second player also has almost all the decision-making power the first player has, which is a nice touch. That means player 2 can buy permanent upgrades in the hub, or use the shops during a run. The only thing they can't do is decide where the ship goes on the map, but they can at least see the map and be a part of that decision-making process. I say that all to emphasize we didn't feel like this was a little sibling pared down experience for player 2. Finally, we did face some bugs during the pre-release window, but they were almost all fixed by the time the game released. So that's everything on the back end. Let's see what Ship of Fools is really all about.
Shoot. Come on, bro.
We got it.
Get those! Okay. Ooh, every time, dude. Every time. It's just as intense as the last time. Come
Literally. Oh my gosh. That was wild.
Like most roguelites, Ship of Fools starts at a hub area. In this case, it's the Great Lighthouse. But there's a problem here, it's broken. Thus, the archipelago is vulnerable to the impending darkness that's crossing the seas. And that's where you and your friend come in as the titular fools, being the only creatures brave or dumb enough to set out to sea and face this evil force. It's a great premise that's helped even more by its charming art style, but let's get into the gameplay loop now. You'll start your adventure in the Forgotten Waters. This is essentially the first level. You'll traverse this level using a really cool tiles menu where you get to pick certain encounters. Thing is, you only have 3 moves before the darkness gets its turn to cover the map. And once it's circled you in, you'll have no choice but to face that region's boss. So you have to pick your tiles carefully and make the most of your moves. As this is a roguelite, every time you play a level, the tiles will be different. And even if you pick a certain tile, it could lead to a different outcome each time, like the question mark tiles or finding different items in a shop. You're always having to make decisions on what you need in that particular run. You might have a lot of money to spend, so getting to a shop tile could really pay off. Or you might be gearing up for the next boss, so getting to a shield tile could really set you up well. In the latter case, choosing a shield tile will have you face a horde of enemies, but reward you with shields for your ship, therefore giving you some additional HP. You'll need these shields for later, as the game will ramp up in difficulty the deeper in your run. On the ship itself, you'll face a variety of enemy types. Some will stay far away, so you have to shoot them down with the cannons, while others will come up close to wreck your ship, like these tall, big bird looking guys that you have to whack in the face using your trusty paddle. Yeah, hate those guys. You can also deflect hits using this swirly move, but be careful not to hit your fellow crewmate. Yeah, we'll come back to this later. Along the way, you'll start to collect new forms of ammo, new characters, trinkets, and other currencies like gold and tendrils. Once you've beat a region's boss, you'll automatically move on to the next level, or should you fail, you'll wake back up in the Great Lighthouse. Here, you can use the tendrils earned from your run for some permanent upgrades to help you in your next run. And that's pretty much the whole gameplay loop. Overall, the game took us about 8 hours to complete, but we're also elite gamers and we're pretty good at this game, so who's to say? Okay, joking aside, even though the game was kinda short, it nails more co-op mechanics than games 3 times as long, so let's get into those.
We like have weak paddles.
That's fine.
That's good. It's good to learn. It's good to learn.
Yeah.
we love the risk and reward.
I love pain.
As Gabe mentioned at the top, we have played our fair share of roguelikes and roguelites that have co-op in it, but none of them are quite like Ship of Fools. It really stands out from the competition and how clearly this game is designed for 2 players. I mean, legitimately, I can't imagine playing this in solo. And I really want to emphasize how much this does not feel like a tacked on experience. It's so vital to everything that happens. So let me start at the top of the decision making tree, work my way down, and I think you're going to see what I'm getting at by the end of all this. So at the beginning, it starts with choosing a character, which is not simply a cosmetic choice, even if they do all look like your favorite background SpongeBob characters.
Meep.
Each character comes with a built-in trinket, which are like this game's held items that will modify what your build does. So on one hand, you can choose Krillstop, who I like to call Shrimpy, and he has a stronger paddle combo when things get dicey on board the ship. Or maybe you want better damage on your cannon, so you go with Shelby, who gets perks for loading the ammo. Or maybe you want to designate someone as your healer, and you go with Finley, who has the ability to gain a bonus when repairing the ship. These distinctions are important when you have 2 people, because you can use these base trinkets to then build towards that character's strengths as you go through a run. So, for example, I chose Krillstop during a run, and Gabe chose Shelby. When a trinket comes up during the run that increases the amount of ammo you load in a cannon, like the ammunition belt, we're going to choose to give that to Gabe as Shelby because it stacks with his initial ability. Meanwhile, when an item like telescopic handle shows up, adding to my paddle's reach, we're giving that to Krillstop, my boy Shrimpy. These decisions reinforce the importance of using the roguelike mechanics in smart ways that better and more diversify each member of your team. Now, trinkets are just the beginning here because you've also got what's going on with the ship. The ship can be modified in several ways as well, depending on the cannons you choose before the run and then the ammo or amulets you find during it. On one run, we got both fire and ice ammo, and we would play around by switching the ammo to seeing which was the best combo, which was extra cool because we had a cannon that time that allowed you to load 2 ammos at once. And then the amulets can basically break the game. On one of our final runs, we got an amulet that provided extra ship health, and then later on we doubled that amulet. Somehow we actually didn't beat the final boss in that run, but that's another story for another day. My point with all of this is that the roguelite mechanics are constantly pressuring you to think out how your builds are working, and what you're going to do next. Even looking at the map and choosing our tiles became a tense conversation about what was the best route for our current needs. And we needed to make all those right decisions because the action in this game gets absolutely crazy. You're going to want all the advantages you can get. Communication is absolutely key in the heat of battle, as there's really good enemy variety that's always pushing you around and making you adjust. I really like this one clip with all these different enemy types. You've got your exploding pufferfish that's like slowly drifting towards us, so one of us is running around to make sure they stay away from the hull by whacking them away. Meanwhile, the tentacruels and the metal crab are firing projectiles that cause fire, so we're either trying to block that or put out the fire if it doesn't make it onto the ship. Finally, towards the end of the clip here, you see a little crab come aboard, and I go over there and like whack it away. You're always on your toe, even in little basic gameplay moments like this. This is not a boss fight, this is a basic tile that we ran into. So we're always adjusting and reacting appropriately in rhythm to the enemies on screen, which also of course goes in tandem with your abilities that you've got in said run. Now with the excellent roguelike mechanics forcing cooperation, and the enemy variety encouraging communication, you may start to see our point. Everything in this game pushes you not to just be thinking about your playstyle, but your partner's playstyle. I want to finish my argument with this clip from the second boss fight, just to give you an idea of how this all culminates in action.
Like, I'll take care of slap and projectiles. Oh crap, okay, I'm gonna go down.
Shoot.
Oh, I got out of it.
Yeah, that was crazy. Hit him. Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Got it. Okay, got him. And then I'm gonna hit him with the bomb now.
Can you get that second fire for me? Thank you.
Yeah, I think I got him. Okay.
You did.
Ooh, let's go. Bouncer about to pop on. Oh my god, Bounce do so much damage, bro. I got the fire on the right.
Thank you.
This clip is chaotic for sure, but we're also communicating and keeping things under control because we've adjusted to our roles and at the same time are able to adapt with what we're saying to each other. This right here is an excellent co-op gameplay system, and I hope I did it really good justice because it deserves a lot of praise.
With all that praise we just heaped onto Ship of Fools, I want to preface this section by saying this is an excellent co-op game, and here are just a couple things that can make it even better. For one, as Andrew mentioned, the action can sometimes be way too chaotic. This is especially true in the later levels, and particularly during the final boss fight. As this game doesn't have any difficulty settings, we think it could just be a bit more balanced. The action can just get so crazy that there's too much going on screen for you to actually strategize and work together. Occasionally during hectic sequences, you'll run into the issue where you're trying to clear out ads with your paddle, but you end up hitting your partner. This can totally throw you off your groove as it takes a second for your character to regain its footing. It was funny the first couple times, but it ends up being a mechanic that's actively working against the game and what makes it great with a friend. Now, neither of these things are enough for us to think twice on recommending the game. I want to make that very clear. Ship of Fools is not only an excellent co-op game, as we've laid out pretty well I might add, but honestly, it's also just really fun.
At this point, I'm sure everything we've said, but also our voices in the gameplay clips have communicated our message. We had a great time with Ship of Fools. Some of the encounters are just so tense, and it puts everything you've worked for to the test, and you're yelling at your bro, and he's yelling at you. It's what made us fall in love with co-op games years ago. Plus, this is just an overall really nice package with an awesome art style, quippy writing, fun characters, and some really good music. Like, this is an outstanding soundtrack. So we struggled to find things to critique about Ship of Fools, but there is one thing we have to talk about, and that's the fact that it only took us like 8 or 9 hours to beat. We hit the final boss after like, I don't know, 4 or 5 runs. This is purely a preference thing. We were kind of cool with that. We had our fun and then we dipped out, and honestly, if there was a better platinum, we'd probably still be playing. But when you think of the cornerstones of the roguelite genre, you think of Hades or Spelunky, and that means hours upon hours of mastering the mechanics and gameplay until you reach that final true ending. And for some people, that's really satisfying and why they play games in this genre. Shovel Knight Dig, a roguelike that came out earlier this year, was a hit with critics, but fans were annoyed that it only lasted 4 to 5 hours. Now, I played it and personally enjoyed it. I thought the gameplay was tight, the setting and art style was top notch, and it had great music. All of those things are true for Ship of Fools, but on top of that, it's a great cooperative experience with even better roguelite elements than a Shovel Knight Dig. I say all this to contextualize the game length and our preferences, but to also emphasize I don't think the length of this game, whether it's 8, 9, 10 hours for you, should be the defining reason you skip out on it, because truly, this is an awesome game.
Dang, that was so sick.
Did we get it? We did it? Oh,
Yeah, we got it,
wow.
bro.
Dude, I was so in, I didn't even realize we'd won. Oh my gosh, dude, that's a battle, man. That's
That was a
battle.
battle and a half.
As I mentioned at the top, we've played a ton of roguelike co-op games, from old favorites like Spelunky to newer games like Returnal or Bravery and Greed. But Ship of Fools has definitely set a new bar for this little subgenre by being the most accessible and cooperative roguelike game we've played yet. Nearly everything here was assigned with co-op in mind. I mean, there's literally a trophy for beating the game in co-op, which is awesome. And one of my favorite parts of this game was how many new things we discovered the more we played. Even after doing a handful of runs and thinking I'd seen it all, we kept discovering new items or mechanics. They've definitely packed a ton into this little package. And while it may seem too short or simple for some people, take our word for it, we think just about anybody would enjoy Ship of Fools, and it firmly cements itself as one of our favorite co-op games of the year. Thanks for watching our review on this one, guys. If you want to support us, please consider subscribing or following us on our socials for more co-op content. You can also check out our new merch store. We just launched our retro inspired collection, including some cool tees, a tote bag, and even some stickers. You can find the link for all of that down below. As the year is winding down, we have lots of great content coming for you real soon. We're starting Warhammer 40k Darktide, which will be streaming on Mondays and Wednesdays, and we'll begin working on all our year-end GOTY videos as well, so stay tuned. Thanks again, we'll catch you next time on another episode of The Co-op Bros.
Oh, poor bird. Oh my god, stop. Bro, stop it. Stop, he's dead, he's gone. Oh no, he's right there. Okay, we're good. Hey, buddy. Hey, there we go. I'll bring him to safety. Won't let you attack
This
this
is
bird
mad.
no more.
He's
Oh, there's
mad.
more birds. Oh no! Oh god! Oh god! Not the birds! Stop it, you